This is a shocking revelation that has come out of Dartmouth's research analyzing the efficacy of their test optional policy. It's no secret that on average, a higher income student is going to do better on the SAT or ACT than a lower income student. However, that is not necessarily only due to test prep, that's also due to systemic differences in education that were exacerbated, especially during the pandemic. So a lot of schools, including Dartmouth and many of the Ivy Leagues, went test optional and basically said, hey, you student, you get to decide, no matter what you score on the SAT or ACT, if you want to send it in with your application. Entirely up to you. If you don't send it in, we won't know about it, and so we'll make a decision based solely upon the merits of the rest of your application. Now, logically, if you're a student whose SAT or ACT score falls below the average 50th percentile for a competitive school like Dartmouth, you're going to think to yourself, I'm not going to send it in. So, for example, if Dartmouth's SAT average score is 1,500 and you scored a 1,350, you're not going to send it in. So a lot of students, especially those from low-income backgrounds, didn't send in their SAT scores if it fell well below the average score. Now, what's wild about this is the test optional policy essentially tasks students with putting themselves in the shoes of an admissions counselor and thinking to themselves, as the hypothetical admissions counselor, will my application be advantaged by adding in my SAT score or omitting it? And unsurprisingly, a lot of students got it wrong. They thought if my score is well below the average score, I'm not going to send it in. What they didn't realize is that it actually could have helped them get into Dartmouth even with a lower SAT score. Dartmouth received all of the SAT and ACT scores for everyone who applied to Dartmouth well after the admissions game was over and the ink had dried on who was accepted versus rejected. And what they found is that there were lower income students who would have been admitted had they sent in their SAT score that was below the Dartmouth average SAT score, because it would have demonstrated to the admissions committee that a student, especially one coming from that adverse background, could have handled the academic rigors of the school. So a lot of these students basically got rejected because not only did they have to deal with the regular rigors of being a high school student, but they had to put themselves into a college admissions counselor's shoes to understand what process a college admissions counselor uses to judge applications, especially those coming from diverse backgrounds. And because they didn't know what was behind the magic box of admissions, they failed at it and they didn't get in. This is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. So now, understandably, Dartmouth, and I believe a slew of other schools will soon follow suit. MIT, Georgetown are amongst those that had already recognized that test optional was more detrimental to establishing a socioeconomically diverse class than it was beneficial for that.